Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The End Credits, the podcast where two brothers discuss their thoughts on a film of their choosing. I'm Dominic.
I'm Jonathan.
And today we are talking about Christopher Nolan's action/adventure film, Batman Begins.
I want to say off the bat, just straightforward.
Yeah.
I like the film, I think, just plain and simple. I think
I told you.
I think the whole superhero thing is just it's easy to get captured by.
Sure.
And I think this is before the time period of the copy and paste Marvel superhero film, which I want to say it started in the Avengers era. I think until that time they didn't have it until the Avengers, and before this film just felt I guess believable that it could happen in our world.
Yeah,
to put it simply.
Totally. No, I completely agree. It's definitely a film that's much more grounded than those, Marvel films, and holds up really well. But before we get more into it, let's get some of those details.
Batman Begins was directed by Christopher Nolan with a release date of June 15th, 2005. At a runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, and the genre as an action/adventure. It stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, and Katie Holmes. Again, we have our Blu-ray copy of Batman Begins right in front of us. Acclaimed director Christopher Nolan explores the origins of the legendary Dark Knight. After his parents' murders, disillusioned heir Bruce Wayne travels the world, seeking the means to fight injustice. With the help of his trusted butler Alfred, Detective Jim Gordon, and his ally Lucius Fox, Wayne returns to Gotham and unleashes his alter ego, Batman, a masked crusader who uses strength, intellect, and high weaponry to fight evil. That was a good summary right there.
Yeah, I think it was really nice. I have to say, for 2005, this film holds up remarkably well.
I think so, especially being the first of a trilogy and setting up what's going to happen forward as a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does pretty well, even visually too. It holds up remarkably well. If anything, just like with Memento, early dialogue sequences just felt a little rough.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that there were mistakes, or there were rough patches with the dialogue and whatnot, but I feel like it was more forgiving simply because of the nature of a superhero film. I kind of feel like it's a little easier to let it go because maybe there's just more other things to worry about or be captured by than just the dialogue.
Okay.
And even when it comes to I guess I would like to call it quotable lines and that you hear in the movie. And for me personally, I kind of felt like there are a lot of those sprinkled throughout, but I thought that they fit much nicer. They fit so much nicer than what than what Memento did.
Okay.
There's it just I know it's a dialogue from a script, but it felt like it was able to work a lot better because given the nature of a superhero film, I think your suspense of disbelief is already gone. You're already suspending it, and I feel like it was just much easier to take in those kind of lines that came up every now and then, and it didn't feel hokey.
I guess that's true, especially trying to understand who he is and what he's doing or whatnot. Those later I guess heroic, ethical, stances.
Right.
Accompanied with the dialogue, it can be, if it wasn't a superhero film, it might seem cheesy, but because it's in this it's trying to explain something that's not ordinary.
Right.
It kind of makes sense. I guess it's just my whole thought process was just at the beginning setting up, just learning who Bruce Wayne was, and with his whole training with the League of Shadows and stuff like that. I thought at that moment when he's just describing like his fear and stuff like that, I thought that was a little cheesy for me. But again, I think it works like overall later to when we get to actual Batman. Yeah, I just thought the setup was a little bit like, wait, what? Why is this happening? And
okay.
Where are we at? And how did Bruce Wayne end up here? I just had those questions at the beginning. So
yeah, I definitely do want to get into those scenes a little bit more, and we'll talk about the League of Shadows and Bruce Wayne and his motives and whatnot. But before we get into that, overall, like we're saying, Batman Begins is it's truly a good, grounded origin story for a superhero, especially for Batman. And I just feel like it establishes itself, in my opinion. And for 2005, like, you don't find many films like that, especially superhero. Out of all of them, you would think that in this kind of genre, it would be a massive flop. And I don't think it was. I feel like it never stretched itself too thin. I feel like it always stayed in its its themes and its messages that it had throughout the film, like like the man versus self, anger, violence, corruption, guilt, self-discovery, redemption, coming of age, and all of those things. And I felt like Batman Begins never strayed far away from those ideas, and I felt like that's what helped it.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a well executed origin film, because in this film we really do go into who Bruce Wayne is and how he becomes Batman for a majority of the film,
right?
Like his struggles to go this far into creating this persona of for what he says, fear for the criminals or whatnot. So yeah, because I want to say other films before this, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever.
Forever.
They didn't do these sort
of things. They didn't
go
that deeply into a Batman film.
Right. We didn't really understand this character or have empathy for him like we do in this film. And because we see that struggle at the beginning, and it helps people connect towards him a lot more and makes it an enjoyable film to watch, because you're rooting for him and what he can do.
Right, and it makes it feel so much more human. I like that you brought that up with the previous Batman films that had been made, in the prior years before Batman Begins, and it was nowhere near the level that Begins was at. And I think it's an important thing to establish and make note of, because we were like in cartoon land with the previous Batman films, and Nolan definitely changed the landscape of what a superhero film could feel like.
Right. And
of course, other movies like Spider-Man from 2002, of course. I mean, I think that was the first one, but hopefully we'll look at that one down the line. Yeah, and you spoke earlier about Bruce Wayne's motives, when it comes to what he's fighting for and everything, and you kind of already briefly touched on this. But how do you feel about the motives overall? Do you feel how were they established? Did it feel cliche to you? Did it make sense?
I think overall it made sense, just on with his family, because I know everybody knows this origin story. I feel where his parents, after leaving a theater show, they get mugged by this other.
Just random guy on the street.
Yeah, random criminal or whatnot. And, they end up dying, and he's just left alone or whatnot. I guess, the only thing that was, a little... this is probably actually an actual thing, but I could see how someone's what if, they didn't really know a lot about it, just him... The whole falling in the well scenario, him being afraid of bats and just coming back to haunt him until he's a very much of an adult,
Yeah.
That in some ways can be seriously, but it's a traumatizing experience for a kid, experiencing the death of a loved one. So you can really bypass that and okay, yeah, sure, I'll believe in that.
Yeah. And I feel like what helps again, like I'm going back to just the idea that we're already in a superhero film. I think people are more lenient to let that, I guess, the origins of how said superhero became who they are later. I think people, I feel like people normally just don't care about that. They just want to see, in this case,
superhero.
Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're probably just like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, that
and they don't really
works.
think much of it. But I mean, like even going further from when he was just a kid, because in the opening moments of the film, we do see kind of like when he does get older, it goes really fast. We do see, he gets he's afraid of bats and everything, he falls in the well and everything. But then we cut pretty quickly to seeing him when he gets older, and now he's like in some prison and whatnot. And my question is that like when he's older and in these moments, how do you feel about that? Like, how does it feel like when he's in prison? Like that shift.
I think it's fine. I was just wondering, like, how did Bruce Wayne end up here and all that. If anything that I thought was weird, that when Liam Neeson first showed up,
Oh yeah, his character.
Ducard at 1st, when he first started, that was weird. Like, why'd he just suddenly appear in this prison? How do you know Bruce Wayne was here? And then, like, eventually, throughout the story, it's just like we come to learn how he got into that prison or whatnot.
Right.
All that learning scenario on how that happened was just kind of like, what are the chances of that actually happening, and then them coming out okay, being fine or whatnot, and just going through that whole experience. That in some realm can be like, come on, like
It was a little far reach.
right?
Okay.
But again, it might come back to this is okay. This guy has to become Batman. He has to learn, all these stuff somehow.
Right.
So it's believable in that sense.
That's kind of where my mind was, because I was thinking like, where did this guy show up from? Where did Ducard show up from? And
Right.
like, what is he doing here? And how does he know that Bruce Wayne is here? But I like how he kind of gave that little line of saying something along the lines of, with a name like that, it's not gonna even like the world is so small for Bruce Wayne or something like that, and you're not gonna go very far. So I kind of got that, and that's all I really needed, for like a brief answer. Of course, was I looking for more? Sure, but I mean, I've already seen this movie several times, so I knew.
Right.
But I mean, for a first viewer, like if you were watching it for the first time, I could see how it would be like acceptable, because Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne, and if you know anything about Batman and the universe of Batman, I mean, Bruce Wayne's everywhere, so like you're just gonna be okay with that.
Right.
When he's there and everything, and he ends up like wanting to come back eventually, we get a whole lot more learning about kind of how he got there, and him wanting to experience like real like danger and real crime. And I was curious as to how you felt about him just leaving and taking that first leap from when he confronted Falcone, which was the lead, like the biggest crime lord in Gotham at the time, and then he ends up leaving. Do you feel like it was important for him to leave and go on this journey for him to, go through crime?
Yes, it's like an overall just what happens throughout the film. Yes, it was necessary, and again, you can believe in like why everything happened. With the trial of the criminal who murdered his parents. Obviously, he's gonna get upset that he's let go. He can't do anything about it really.
Yeah.
And then trying to like encounter some danger. It's just you can tell. I guess that's. I think that's believable on someone to do. If they're in this state of like worry and just don't know who to trust and who they want to become and stuff like that, right? It makes sense for him to do all this, especially since obviously he has all this company and this wealth and money. He's just he doesn't know again who to trust or where to go, so he just ends up escaping because he's being overwhelmed by all this stuff around him. And no, I think it makes sense, and like it was a good quote unquote setup just to see who's what everybody's stances were, like ethically, and how far they changed overall.
Yeah. I like what you're saying there because it is interesting to see that where Bruce Wayne, a young Bruce Wayne, was in the moments when um, his parents' murderer was gonna walk away free, and at the time, it was interesting to see that Bruce Wayne was wanting to go to that level of murdering the guy whenever he was gonna be let go, and of course that didn't happen. Um, but it was interesting seeing like that's where his mind was, and like you've pointed out, he was at that low point because he didn't want the criminal to be let go after 14 years or something like that, and obviously he still feels that anger.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? He still feels that sense of like revenge, and I like how Rachel stepped in, and I love how she felt like she was that moral compass at that time. I love that moment when you know uh, she takes Bruce and she shows him around Gotham and like the slums of Gotham and everything, and she's showing like the pain doesn't just stay on you, and it's not all about you, it's about all these other people too, and what your parents stood for, and trying to help out the city as a whole. And that was really interesting, having her there as the moral compass and like almost like guiding him, and he didn't even realize it, and he was definitely falling you know far from what he should have been.
Right, where his parents were originally. So
Yeah, and that was a sad thing. But I guess I was just like thinking that, it was probably an important thing for him to leave, because without that experience of him leaving and kind of putting himself through what crime is like, and being a guy who steals and kind of forgets the moral code really, and just going underground, I think he wouldn't have gotten a sense of what he was doing. And it was kind of like that kick in his gut when Falcone was basically telling him like, you don't understand what it is. And that was kind of like oh man, he, in a way he kind of doesn't, but clearly he took it upon himself to go discover what that actually meant.
right.
And then eventually he ends up finding the League of Shadows. And for me personally, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the film. I really love when he finally discovers the League of Shadows and he gets all his training, and we are reintroduced to Card, and I just really like it. I thoroughly enjoy the scenes. I love watching. I just love watching like when he's learning, and just the way like everything looks and everything. It's really nice, well shot. But like, what is this whole building doing up like way up in the mountains? It's just kind of like it's a little like hard to believe, but okay, I'll just let that one slide. But I think what I really like about this though is I love watching Bruce grow, and he's honing in his skills,
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I like the progression of his character, and just again learning to become Batman. That's the ultimate goal. As long as we see the goal at the beginning, we're like, okay, yes, we can get behind the character of him becoming this superhero, and here's where he's learning all his the stealth and this ninja techniques that he's learning throughout. But I guess it all looks good, and I like a good training montage.
Oh yeah,
but like I don't know, in some ways it's like I don't want to say like cheesy or into that realm, when in some ways I guess for me it's like I don't know. You had to find like a right balance with it to make it like, okay, yeah, it makes sense, and it's showing this character learning throughout.
right.
While on the other hand, you could go too far where it's kind of like, okay, it's like he doesn't need to like do all these things for, just insane things that no human could actually do,
Okay, yeah.
to like, I'm talking about like the extent where basically by his end of his training while he's just holding what's it called? Ducard, by the hand when he like destroys this entire place.
Right.
I'm skipping that far, but that whole entire end scene when we actually get into in depth there, that's kind of like whatever.
Oh, you thought that was cheesy? Interesting, because I actually thought that was like one of the most important scenes.
It's cool, yeah, important, but like at the same time, I understand like it's one of those like moments is like, come on, he was like this this close to like actually failing in that scenario, and I don't know. It's like, of course, and again, going back to this realm of the superhero, it's believable, and I'll get behind it. But in some ways, I'm like,
if it were any other movie, you would have been like, "Oh, that's
I would
stupid.
tear it to shreds."
Yeah. Hey, if Captain America can hold down a helicopter from leaving the building, Bruce Wayne can hold himself, on the edge of a cliff and save Ducard. So I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I really like these scenes, and I like seeing Bruce go from just like a person who's like pent up on rage and not really like understanding like what this anger means, and then we're kind of like really coming to terms with it and understanding it, and then developing his own moral compass through his training. Like the biggest thing is the fact that he doesn't want to kill,
right?
And that's an important idea for him, and because that separates the good from the bad, really. And it's like in his mind, it separates him from being a criminal because he's not like a criminal, and that's what he wants to establish. He doesn't kill; he just wants to, apprehend, but let the system take over for the justice.
Mm-hmm.
He wants that kind of justice, and not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go after you and I'm just going to kill you, and then justice is served. So that's an important thing that I really like seeing. I love how he goes through like this whole training, montage sequence, whatever you want to call it. But at the very end, he doesn't really accept himself as a member of the League of Shadows because the League of Shadows wants to kill. That's
right.
Their code. And at that point, I'm just kind of like little fearful for him because he's surrounded by all these people who technically he's supposed to lead into Gotham now,
right,
and go destroy everyone in Gotham. But then he's like, oh, wait, no, I don't want to kill. What he's like, told that he's got to kill somebody in order for like some kind of, initiation. But
right.
It's like, what the heck? Like, wasn't the training enough? I thought you said I was ready. Jesus.
Yeah. I was like, now I got to kill somebody.
Yeah, I was like, good God.
I want to say that like you can definitely tell the struggle there.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, no, but then Ducard is like, come on, you got to do this. This training can't go to waste.
Yeah, right. He's like, it's too far already.
Yeah,
like for your own sake.
Yeah, it was like, oh, come on, and he was like putting him in this tough situation,
Right.
And as we come to learn with Batman, it's like, nah, this is not what I'm about, and he chooses against going that route.
Right. And I mean, another thing that I like about these scenes is watching both Bruce and Ducard, like their relationship growing stronger, because that's another important thing within the film. Like, it's not like he ends up like destroying the place and then he's just like, okay, let's forget about it.
Right.
He saves Ducard, and like the reason being is because they develop this relationship over the course of their training sessions,
right,
and learn more about each other and everything. And it's almost like a master apprentice kind of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
And if you have ever had that kind of thing, it's it's not just you can't just abandon your teacher, and
right.
you don't just do that. So it makes the rest of their encounters meaningful,
right?
Especially the moment when he saves Ducard from dying in the burning building. Then by saving him, it makes the rest of their encounters more meaningful, and I like that it establishes that.
Mm-hmm.
Then Bruce Wayne returns.
Here's another scenario where I'm like, come on, what's the
Oh, yeah.
chances? They declare him dead, I believe, and then he just comes back.
He's been gone for 7
It's
years.
like, seriously? It's
He's been gone for almost a decade.
What are we doing?
I mean, yeah, that's another thing. I'll agree with you. It was a little, you know, really kind of stretching there, especially like he's just like, oh, let me call up Alfred and my jet, and then here I am. I'm back.
It's like, no, come on. It's like, who's gonna believe after 7 years this guy's not dead? He just shows up and people aren't asking questions. It's like, where were you been? How is this possible? Why did you quote unquote fake your death? And all these situations, and we didn't hear a thing. It was like, oh yeah, he's back.
Honestly, it's because really, ultimately it's not really important. Not important to the story, really.
Okay,
Like
I'm saying,
I'm sure that it probably happened, but we just didn't see it because it wasn't something that we needed to put inside of the 2 hour 20 minutes or whatever.
I'm just saying, like, couldn't we have just said, oh, he went to he's on vacation somewhere, and he's going out. I guess they would have to say, like, at least show photos or something, right? It's like, why can't you contact? But I don't know, saying he's dead and just coming back, and no one seemed really surprised or really like,
I wouldn't say that,
investigating, like, knowing what truly happened. Is like, oh yeah, you're back, and
we're just gonna accept it now. But I mean, if you were to hear something like that, of someone like disappearing and then just coming back, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Probably people are going to look into it and be like a little bit suspicious.
It's like, how did you pull it off?
Right.
Something.
Well, there definitely was a shock factor when Bruce did return to Wayne Enterprises, and I think there was definitely like a shock from the people who saw him again when he came back.
I guess, yeah. I guess we didn't truly need it,
right?
But I guess I wish there was something
a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think I was probably okay with like not having to deal with it, but it's fine. So not only was this the return of Bruce Wayne, but this is the birth of Batman. And for me, I really love these scenes. Like I never get tired of watching these scenes, like particularly like when he's getting the bat suit and he meets Lucius. It's just so fun. And
yeah, just define all this gear and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just the interaction between the two, I think they just do a really good job of just like, man, this could actually happen. This could actually happen if you just had enough money.
Yeah.
I think someone could legitimately become the real Batman.
Yeah, I remember saying when we were watching this film, I was like, why doesn't just somebody, go out and be Batman? It's like somebody's rich out there that could become the Batman.
Right. I was gonna say maybe it's just because no one is Bruce Wayne and everything. They just don't have the money, but that's not true. Look at Amazon. Look at whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's like, yeah, why aren't you Batman here?
Yeah. Just go to L.A. or New York and be the Batman.
Just be the Batman. No, yeah, I really like it because I just love watching like the birth of it happening, like the creation of it coming together. And I love kind of like the slight comedy that Lucius and Bruce Wayne have together. And I love how Bruce Wayne is coming up with like these like awful excuses as to what he needs this gear for. It's just great. I never get tired of these scenes. It's so good. It still holds up today. And yeah, I don't know. It's great. I love in these moments too, like in the birth of Batman. I love how Christopher Nolan not only like gives us a sense of how it was created, but he also gives us a sense of like an amateur Batman. We don't see him just go from, oh, Bruce Wayne's back and everything, and now I'm just gonna be Batman. I love how like he's like acquiring all of this stuff, and then it even goes as far as to like we see like Batman's first night out when he goes to like talk with Gordon for the first time.
Oh man, this is bad.
And he just got like a ski mask. The armor, like the suit, isn't even like complete yet, and he's a little a little rusty.
Right. He
Like
does not have an escape plan at all.
No.
He barely makes it out there. He's like, he gets hurt, injured
Yeah.
when he does this full on dive into some other balcony. It's kind of like, ouch, man.
like injures himself, like has
Yeah.
really like probably broken a
Jeez.
few ribs. I don't know. But and I think that's what's great is because like Christopher Nolan has made Batman appear real,
Yeah.
Like we've gone from, like how we mentioned, we've gone from this like cartoony,
Campy.
campy, like that campy style Batman. Dare I mention George Clooney's Batman?
I always think back to like Adam West's Batman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look how far we've come.
Don't get me wrong though. Like I enjoy that Batman.
Yeah, sure, it's
like,
cool.
I think I have just a fond memory because we owned that DVD
Yeah.
of the movie Batman.
Yeah.
And I have a special place in my heart. But like I don't know, this one it's just a better like origin story, like believability, seriousness, and like okay, again, it's grounded in this believable world.
Yeah, exactly. And like we just see him make mistakes because he's human. He's a human. Batman's not.
Right. He's not
super.
superpowers.
Exactly. He's not Superman. He's not like that. He's a human. But I love seeing like the suit development with him and Lucius, and even with Alfred too. Like when they're making up the masks and everything.
Oh yeah.
Like that's really funny. That's a nice like comedic relief. That's funny. Even like when he makes mistakes with Scarecrow. Like when he encounters a Scarecrow for the first time, and he gets like that dose of that hallucinogen, and I love how like Batman isn't fully prepared for it.
Right, he basically loses that battle basically.
Yeah,
he didn't know about this drug that was happening, and the Scarecrow just
sets him on fire.
Yeah, sets him on fire, and he basically again gets injured out there, and Alfred has to come back and get him because it was that bad. He's out for 2 days, and it's just a bad encounter. He definitely. This is again, like you said, an amateur Batman. It's not the Batman, of he has lots and lots of experience.
Yeah.
This is
like he's well prepared. He's well planned.
This is the beginning, of a Batman.
Yeah,
as the title implies.
Right. So, I really like that we're getting. That sense of like the birth of Batman and everything, and just love how Nolan goes through with all these different ways of showing that, because obviously he's not perfect. Personally, I kind of felt, I always felt like Batman Begins was definitely more about Batman than it is about Bruce Wayne, and I feel like it is a good mix of both. Don't get me wrong, it's a great mix of both. I'm just wondering, do you think that we could have had more Bruce Wayne scenes?
I actually disagree with you in the sense when it's more about Batman. I think it's about both, really. It's just it comes out to who the true Bruce Wayne is, because he really is Batman, and this whole like rich persona, this young, guy. That's all fake in reality. So I think it's hard to differentiate them really if you want to like actually go true in depth. It's more, this is just his human quote unquote persona.
Right.
That's just for show really. So we basically, I think it's just a full combination of Batman / Bruce Wayne. Really, I don't think it's just only Batman,
So you felt like it was a nice blend of the two?
Well, I think it like I said though, it's both.
Right.
So I don't think there was this separation really of them.
Yeah.
It's just who you see, a mask or a human face really.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I was just wondering because I always felt like it was more Batman, but I was always okay with that because I feel like everyone wants to see Batman, I guess maybe when I'm thinking about like previous films, I feel like there was always more Bruce Wayne than the Batman for whatever reason. But I feel like Christopher Nolan did a good job at keeping the blend between the two. And like you said, it's really just kind of the Bruce Wayne is really just kind of like the real mask, I guess, to the Batman figure.
Right.
And then we get that really good introduction with Batman for his first moment, like when he's like a little bit more, he's got his like stuff together a little bit when he goes after Falcone and his men. I love that introduction for Batman. That's probably one of the best introductions for any superhero.
It just turns into a horror movie, basically.
I know, right? It feels very horror-esque. Yeah, I don't know. I just love that moment when we finally get that first gritty, grungy I'm Batman, and the iconic Batman voice that Christian Bale, so does. But
yeah, I believe since then every Batman has tried to do that voice,
like replicate it.
Yeah, with it, because I don't believe any of the previous Batmans actually had that tone of voice. Really,
not like the kind of gravelly that he does. Very interesting. I remember looking into like the origin story behind the voice, and apparently I think it was a mistake on set one day or something, just to make someone laugh, and I think someone overheard him just like do that again.
Really? Okay.
I don't remember. It was something along those lines, I think, and it just stuck. And obviously stuck around for two more films.
Yeah.
No, but I love that moment because it feels epic. Like Batman's just there, and they're trying to take him down, and we just get that first glimpse of him. But I think what's more is that like it brings both Gordon, Rachel, and Batman together, like the holy trinity, I guess, of Gotham,
the dream team,
and I think that's what's great about it, is because it brings these characters together now, and it establishes them as a team.
Yeah, as like the hope of Gotham, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But their plans kind of get cut short because there's more villains throughout Gotham.
Yeah,
such as like the Scarecrow, when he basically they become more and more suspicious of him after Falcone gets arrested or whatnot, and he claims he's insane or what.
Oh, right.
And eventually Scarecrow needs to shut him up, and which he does, and eventually Rachel gets very suspicious on like what's happening or whatnot.
Yeah.
And this causes like a chain reaction to like the next events of the movie.
Right. Quite literally a chain reaction because of the whole like water getting contaminated.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny that you use that word. But Dr. Jonathan Crane / the Scarecrow. I love how you brought him up because honestly, for the longest time when I watched this movie, I always felt like he was like the weakest link. And watching it again, I feel completely wrong about that now.
You're true. Yeah, I think I thought that before too. But watching it again for the podcast, I'm like, he does have an actually bigger role here than what I originally thought.
Yeah, and like what I originally remembered. But I loved his performance. Like, for me, I kind of felt like he was like one of the few people who really understood his character. Like, I think he was probably the only person up to the point of that movie when he showed Rachel the what was going on underneath like
the water supply.
Yeah, like in the water supply. I love that moment when Batman comes, and I love how he calls him the Batman, and the way he delivers the line. I don't think anyone previously in the movie called him the Batman. I don't think,
or just Batman,
or just Batman.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did. I'm not sure, but when Scarecrow says the Batman, it just like sells it. It sells the fact that like Batman is like this image, this like character, and it almost like legitimizes him,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, like it did something else for that moment in time. And I'm like, man, he was so good. I was like, I really like Scarecrow.
Yeah,
one of the better villains, actually, I think.
Yeah, I think he did a well performance and all that. My only like issue with that like whole sequence is when the like all the henchmen like behind when they ask questions to set up that scene.
It's a little
I'm like,
stupid.
Yeah, they're like the dumbest henchmen ever.
But they always are. Henchmen always
I
are.
know, but I'm like, they ask the question, can he really fly and stuff like that. I'm like, seriously, guys, like,
Yeah.
do you believe?
Do you really believe? Yeah.
It's like real people would be like, come on, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Just brush it off. That's like a real reaction. But this guy actually gave it like, oh man, maybe this guy can fly. I was like, I don't know. That's just a superhero world thing.
Well, like Scarecrow responded that way? Is that what you're saying?
No. The henchmen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I think if they were like henchmen of the real world, quote unquote, they'd be like, nah, whatever, that other side of henchmen, they just brush it off and they just let their guard down. That's more believable in my opinion.
Right. Okay.
But this type of henchman was like the stupid henchman that be thinking like, Batman can fly. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I see what you're saying. I don't know. Like, I even love the way that Scarecrow replied to them. Like, he almost kind of made it seem like, gave him kind of believability. It's like, oh, we'll have to see. We don't know. But they
But again,
and I love that because it plays to his character because he loves playing with people's minds.
Right. And that works. That works
Yeah.
with his whole persona and how he carries himself.
Right.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think that these henchmen were just supposed to be portrayed as real people.
But they're just played stupid.
Yeah. I was like, come on.
Yeah. I totally understand. No, yeah, definitely not a weak link. Definitely much stronger than what I remembered the character being, and I was just like, "Wow, this is great." I even read that, as people may know, Cillian Murphy, the guy who plays Scarecrow, he was actually he auditioned for the role of Batman with Christian Bale and one other guy, and but obviously he didn't get the role. That would have been really weird. But anyway,
I was gonna say, whoa.
But when he got the part for Scarecrow, he actually read a lot of comics on Scarecrow and the character, so he understood it. But he not only understood the character, but he wanted to take him in a different direction because Scarecrow was kind of a little bit like cartoony and hokey in the comics.
Okay.
So he wanted to kind of make him a little bit more realistic. And I love that he read into the character, and it definitely shows in the movie, in my opinion, that him doing the research into the character and getting a different sense of what the character could be, I feel like he made it his own, and definitely a villain that underrated, I think, and not talked about enough, especially of course, like in Christopher Nolan's trilogy, because when we come to The Dark Knight, we have the Joker, and obviously that's a really great performance. Right. But I feel like Scarecrow isn't talked about enough.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought him up. Yeah, I don't know. There was something different about that performance. I love how when we're in this moment, it almost feels like everything's like really falling apart, and there is no hope. Especially when the water lines are contaminated, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? And especially the fact that Batman only has like 2 antidotes in order to heal yourself from this, but we need to help an entire city.
Yeah, it's like that's not enough. Clearly,
like the stakes are high at this point, and it's like, can Batman even save Gotham?
Right, especially like he's kind of put to the test just to see if he can save one person with Rachel, because she gets injected with whatever poison that Scarecrow had, and we see this whole action chase scene really going down Gotham just to see if he can save one person. This like first test, and he kind of almost fails. As we see throughout, there's like a possibility of that happening.
Right.
But obviously, the Batman will succeed, and
barely.
I just want to say, like, with this whole sequence, that man, does this whole scene just looks really good.
Oh yeah.
When calling the bats with his like signal or whatnot, because of that, and then him just dropping down, like that's just visually, it looks amazing.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's like you can't like, oh man, it's
very
like,
cinematic.
Right, you can't. how can you not get behind something that looks this good,
Yeah.
especially with him getting in this car, having this whole chase with the cops. I guess the only real downside is like he had before this whole struggle with not killing people or whatnot, but clearly some of these cops have had these insane injuries or could have died, because we see their cars get flipped like it's no tomorrow, and like,
Yeah, I know.
come on.
They like crash into like pipes and like pillars and buildings, and it's
Right.
like Batman just letting it go.
There's so much damage that is done
Yeah.
to Gotham just to save Rachel, and it's like him and Alfred have this like whole talk about it too, but he's like, it's Rachel, man.
Yeah, it's Rachel. It's like, well, Alfred's like, I obviously care about Rachel too, but
Yeah.
yeah, great scene, great moments. Yeah, filled with like action and everything, but all around just great. Like, especially the moment when like he's in the Tumbler or the Batmobile, I don't know what we want to call it, but and he's like on the interstate and he's just like zooming. But I love that moment when like it all goes dark, and then he goes like really slow, and it just sets a different tone for the scene. And he's just like still, even in that that big, like I don't know how big it is, like 16-foot like tumbler machine. This tank is like being stealthy, and I'm like, I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah.
it was kind of weird. It was kind of cheesy, but it was cool when he went through the Batcave, and then he like flew to go save and get the antidote and save Rachel. Great scene. I can't say enough about it. Oh man, but honestly, maybe the scene after that is almost better. So Bruce gets back, and he's like dressing up because it's his birthday. Tonight's his birthday.
His
we
birthday.
completely forgot about that. It's his birthday. All right. Great Gatsby quote, anyone? I don't know. So it's his birthday, and he comes back. He's dressing up in his tux, and he goes down and greets the guests who's there. And then, Bruce is doing his thing. He finds out that Lucius has been fired and everything, and he's just like, "Oh no, but I need anecdotes. I need mass production because we got the." He's telling him about the water situation, and then he's like about to go and like basically like, I don't know. He needs to get everyone out. He needs to focus on he needs to focus on what's like the stakes that are in hand. But then he gets interrupted by some lady who claims like, oh, you got to meet this person. You got to meet this person. And then she says that like Ra's al Ghul. And then we're just like, whoa, it can't be Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, it's like, I thought we killed him like earlier in this movie.
What an epic moment too. Like when even he knows that can't be true. And we even got another moment when the Scarecrow said that he worked for Ra's al Ghul, and even Batman was just like, that can't be, like I killed him. And then we kind of get this like tease that like Ra's al Ghul is still alive, and he's clearly not some other guy, some henchman.
Yeah, some other henchman.
But then we hear the voice of Liam Neeson himself. And then he turns around, and then like Bruce is like, oh crap, like Ducard's still alive. Well, obviously he knew that, but like he's here, and that was epic. Like that moment that like Ducard is here, but he's posing as Ra's al Ghul. This is the part that kind of always confused me, because I was even reading into like just some things about Batman Begins, and apparently some places believe that like he's actually Ra's al Ghul and he's not Ducard, and he was actually Ra's al Ghul all along. But I just find what's weird though is the fact that in the credits though he's not credited as Ra's al Ghul.
No, I think he is Ra's al Ghul. He's the true one technically.
Oh, okay.
It's just he had this again other persona, Ducard, that he would be or introduce himself to Bruce. So yeah, I think he ultimately it's revealed in this scene that he is the true Ra's al Ghul, and he revealed himself now, and is going to carry out his plan that he told him before. That's how, like, because I was even questioning, when we were watching this film, I was like, how would he have done this whole entire setup to destroy Gotham if he was basically, saved by Bruce right there? He is like, wouldn't he have the time to set up this whole elaborate plan
Yeah.
when it was literally Bruce went, from saving him to Gotham, and that was like a span of, maybe a month, 2 months, who knows?
So like, why didn't he destroy Gotham then?
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't think he had enough time to set up all of this because you know how he basically goes into depth, like, we infiltrated all of this town or whatnot. But, then when you think about it, if he is the true Ra's al Ghul, technically he set this whole scenario way beforehand, and he was like, he wanted Bruce to basically be one of his head guys.
Yeah.
But he, said no. So that he had it all in place and he was just about to resume it. It got, quote unquote, a little delayed.
Right.
But, yeah. So that's how it all makes sense.
And I like that moment when he does like explain it. And especially like when, just like his parents, he was kind of like almost like in the way, like Bruce Wayne was in the way because his parents had those like same like ideals that he eventually ended up having as a person. And it was even cooler like when he mentioned that like the League of Shadows has not only been just like around for like that, like a few years or that decade or whatever, like they've been around since like the like the Roman Empire and everything, and like kind of bringing like elements of history into it. Yeah. And that was a little like that was kind of interesting hearing that like the League of Shadows is this like ancient group that like resets the world when it needs to, and we're the ones to do it. Like it's not like it just happens. Like there's a group behind it. It kind of like fed into conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's like this Illuminati type of thing.
Yeah, but it was kind of interesting because it kind of added to the mystique to Ra's al Ghul / Ducard
and how much power they have over the world.
Right, and it's not. And I think this is what's great about his character too. It's that it's not like he has all the power. Mm-hmm. Is he leading it? Yes, but it's this group.
Yeah, of this moral code, as they say it, and
right.
Eventually they dictate when enough's enough and whether things should be stopped or not. And obviously in this situation, they thought Gotham can't be saved, so they carry out their extinguishing plan, I guess.
Right. And what a moment when the hall, like the Wayne Manor or whatever we want to call it, like burns to like it's burning to the ground.
Yeah.
And then they have their showdown, and Ra's al Ghul just like leaves Bruce for dead, but he doesn't actually like kill him or anything, but because he leaves him alive, but he just leaves him burning inside of the place, just as just as Bruce did for him back when he was in training and everything. Mm-hmm. I love how like Christopher Nolan kind of brings back these like moments that happen in the beginning, and then he brings it back in a different way towards like the climax of the film.
It happens a lot.
It does,
and yeah, like you're saying, I think it does add this other element of like since we as viewers watched earlier, it kind of is like this payoff moment to see it come back and really add to the effect of some scene or emotion or some idea.
Yeah, and and I feel like this is kind of what separates Batman Begins from like a film like Memento. And maybe it is simply due to the superhero nature of the film that it makes me feel like it's okay to revisit certain scenes. Because like Memento did a similar thing, And like we revisited scenes for the sake of if we're saying like an emotional impact or anything, like even in Batman Begins, we see moments of him and his father, like having like just a father-son moment with the, like him hearing his heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And like we come back to that like several times, twice.
I think twice, yeah.
And it was fine. Like it felt right. And I felt like Memento employed similar things, but it just didn't feel the same. And Batman Begins did it successfly.
I think it's, again, a combination of the origin story, how relatable they can be, and the setup for how much do, us as viewers see that development. Because in Memento, we don't really see how Leonard, develops as a character before his condition. We only see his condition and learn him through what he knows.
Right.
So it's a completely different way how we view a character like that.
Yeah. And maybe those are the differences, just like the type of film, obviously the main character, the story, all of that. Yeah, then basically it almost feels like we're at this moment of, and this usually happens in superhero movies, especially like today, where we feel like we're at the lowest of low points, and now it's like we failed. Like the main character feels like they have failed, and like we can't save. We failed at our jobs, and we can't save the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's always that one person, and in this case, it's Alfred, who just tells him, and here again we get that moment of that like feel good moment of something that we heard already previously in the film. That quote from Bruce's father. They're like, well, why do we pick ourselves up? That way we can learn or why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up. Sorry, I butchered that. But we are reintroduced to that again,
right?
From Alfred.
It's a really clever moment again too. It was like at lowest of low points. Really great way to set the scene up so that we can continue on with developing the Batman, and we can truly prevail with this hope over a despair.
Right. But it almost seems like we're losing more and more of that or like the hope, because basically the plan A is getting set in motion. The water is vaporizing into the air because we've got that. That feels a little too convenient. We got to mention that one like machine, that weapon that Wayne Enterprises has made, that weapon that vaporizes water or any kind of like chemicals in the air or something. It just felt too convenient. That was the one problem that I think I had. That felt like it just was like this placeholder that had way too much power.
Maybe I don't know enough about if that's even possible to weaponize at all. It's like, who knows if that's a thing? I don't know. Again, this might go back to how lenient we can be in regards to a superhero films. Like, sure, that can happen, I guess. It's like anything's happened in the comics, right? It's like, come on, there's multiverses and so on. It's like, if I can believe that, I don't know.
It's like, just let it go. But yeah, anyway, Gotham's going to crap, or at least one half of it is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like Rachel's over there, Gordon's over there, and then we get this whole like great moment where Gordon gets to drive the tumbler, and Batman saving Rachel and everything, and they eventually get out of there.
Yeah, they basically develop a plan in order to stop Ra's al Ghul from causing more destruction to Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
He basically tells Gordon to go to this place, but we don't really know where or how. But Batman just take my ride or whatnot.
Yeah.
And Batman goes on his some other way to stop Ra's, and this is like a funny moment with Gordon because Batman gives him his keys or whatnot, and Gordon's just like how do I drive this thing? And it's just a hilarious moment to see him. Again, this is human like,
right?
We can connect with him here because like you wouldn't know how to drive this thing.
That big thing.
Yeah.
And see, this is a perfect example of how comedy should be done. And honestly, any movie, but it's particularly in a superhero film.
Yes, I agree.
We can give you some comedy. We can alleviate some of the action and some of the tension, which I do believe in, but not to the point where it like completely kills the mood of the movie.
Right.
And I think Christopher Nolan was able to employ some of those really great moments, but still keep that tone of seriousness. The stakes are high,
especially like dictating like when the comedy happens with which characters,
right? Because
this is a comedic moment with Gordon, and it makes sense because I guess he's just a regular guy, right? If this happened with, there's probably some scenes with comedic moments with Batman, but I guess there's so little, and
they're brief.
They're very brief. It's not like a lingering tone. It's not like he even engages super far into that realm, right? It's usually another character that's added in that scenario, and they have that comic relief moments where it's not focused on the actual superhero and kind of like dragging down their mystique, I guess.
Exactly. And it's not like it shouldn't be there to distract. You know, like it's just kind of there to alleviate a little bit of that tension, but not, oh, let's just fall into this and ha ha ha, it's funny. I don't know. You know, that sort of thing. But man, and then like talk about the impact about like the moment when we like Batman and Ra's al Ghul are in their like another showdown.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't feel like like I say like, oh, another showdown. But it didn't feel like that, you know? It felt like, you know, here we are again, but it's still impactful. It's still meaningful. And it all had to do with, you know, that whole first moment of like obviously the training, but the saving, and then now he's in his own house. But now here we are again, squaring off for the final time.
Right. It's like classic like master versus student, you know, a mentality here, you know, it's like who's gonna win, who's gonna prevail, you know.
Yeah, who's gonna get that like, you know, that upper hand.
Right. And yeah, this is a great scene because, you know, when we see this whole, you know, it's a fight scene, right?
Yeah.
But just the tactics on like what's happening around them and whose plans actually going forward. And we see that with Batman because he sends Gordon to basically take down the whole bridge that's leading them to the water supply of Gotham. And basically Ra's didn't account for all this to happen. And basically Batman shuts down his plan, but still there's a lot of destruction, right? It's not like he physically stopped it. He had to let it go, but he basically prevented it from doing more harm than what it could have done.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know, like this whole, like you say that like, you know, it's a fight scene and everything, but what's great about it is that like that the whole story is taking place, you know, like how you just described. And it still sets the stakes, and then like just the fight scene itself was so like clean and it was tight. And then the moment like when Batman does finally gain the upper hand, in that moment when he's just like I guess maybe Ra's al Ghul is like expecting him to kill him, but Batman doesn't. And he says like, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. Yeah. And it's just like this moment of like, oh man, that sucks so bad. And
it's such a cool scene just to see him like pop out. It's like, you know, he just goes out with his cape and whatnot. It's like, man, yeah, just like you said, it's like,
just epic.
Yeah, just an epic moment.
But we even get that great moment like a little bit afterwards when Ra's al Ghul knows what his fate is. And then just like, I love that little moment too.
Yeah.
That it's not just about Batman, but we also get that moment between him and Ra's al Ghul. You know?
It's like, again, it's like this respect thing where it's like, okay, I've lost and I'll accept my fate.
Yeah.
It's not like he has a shock moment of value and he just goes down screaming, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
like
he's like at peace, quote unquote. It's like,
exactly.
You were the better man in this scenario.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. Like so just different than what like a cartoony Batman could ever offer.
Right.
And, you know, thank God the world is saved, or like, I guess to a certain extent. And, you know, Batman has won. Gotham is slowly getting better. And then we see like these, I love how we're starting to see like more of the establishment of, you know, like the things like the bat signal, Gordon and Batman, you know, being a team. Rachel's okay.
Yeah, they start to like basically rebuild everything again. And here's where we basically get the scenario of like, you know, is he gonna, you know, in the superhero movies, they usually have some sort of lovers scenario, you know,
right,
with like, you know, Spider-Man, Mary Jane, you know, Superman, Lois Lane, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
And here's like, oh, is he gonna get the girl or not? But like, no, it doesn't happen.
No.
It's actually kind of better that way, you know?
Yeah, and because it actually appears like that's gonna happen, you know? And then it turns out to be just more like whenever Gotham doesn't need Batman, you know, come find me, I guess. Sort of.
This is also another scenario where I say that technically there is no separation from Bruce Wayne and Batman, because even Rachel, realized that that technically there's only really that Batman, I guess, persona is like one and all, and the whole, rich, wealthy guy, that's not a true.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a good way to like end off the Batman world right there for now, I guess.
For now, right? And yeah, exactly. And see, that's what was great about Rachel, is because she always understood like who Bruce was, and Bruce Wayne is Batman, and Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
and she recognizes that, So it's like, yeah, like let's cut to the chase, but honestly, like being honest about it and knowing how that affects him, how that affects them,
and even Gotham, because even if they did get together, obviously she knows how much Gotham means and how much Gotham needs him,
Yeah.
So the fact that that's what, maybe later, hopefully, that can happen one day.
Right. And then we're just like, the establishment of other things, the bat signal, the teaming up with Gordon and whatnot. And then we get the nice little and like it just wraps up nicely. Like we get the nice little like teaser to the Joker.
Yeah, this is an epic moment too, but probably only because of now where it leads.
Right.
I wonder if it had the same impact, in theaters in 2005.
Yeah.
Because like when we see just this card and it's the flipping of the Joker card, it's like, oh man, it's such an epic, you get
chills.
I was like feeling it's like, oh man, that's epic, because the Joker is obviously Batman's most famous villain
and greatest rival.
Right. It's like, come on. Everybody wants to see that.
Everyone wants to.
So great ending. Great movie. Simply, it's like, watch this. It's probably underrated in the trilogy.
That's what I'm saying. I have said that. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I don't know when it was. It was like several years ago. I also felt the same way. I'm just like, I feel like Batman Begins is the most underrated film in the entire trilogy. Because I know Dark Knight gets all the attention. I understand why, but Batman Begins, it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I remember thinking when we stopped, I was like, man, I want to watch it again.
Yeah, I was like, to be able to rewatch it again, the rewatchability is just like great music too. Like I got to mention that. Holy crap, the music's so good. Like it sets the tone like in great moments. And I was even looking it up because I wanted to know who wrote it, because I was like, I knew Hans Zimmer did Dark Knight, but James Newton Howard also wrote music with Hans Zimmer on Batman Begins.
Yeah, sweet.
And it just not that Hans Zimmer's bad or anything, but like it just really adds to the like a little bit. It feels a little bit different than the rest of the trilogy, in terms of music, in terms of like their like presentation and everything. And of course, you can only do so much within an origin story, and it can only be presented in a certain way. But man, yeah, such an underrated film in the trilogy. Not a lot of people like talk about it, and it definitely should be.
Watch this film.
Yeah,
watch it, please.
Ahead of its time, aged
definitely
remarkably well.
Yes,
great movie. Just see it, own it. Yeah, it's great. So there we have it. Christopher Nolan's action/adventure film, Batman Begins. We hope you enjoyed listening and watching this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The End Credits. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The End Credits Podcast, and over on Twitter at The End Credits. If you're watching the video version, make sure to subscribe to the End Credits YouTube channel. That's it. Thank you and goodbye.